5% compared to 5.8% last year. In Q1, our performance was pressured by the ongoing impact of the pandemic and supply chain challenge, while our key raw material price have shown an improvement in Q2. For this slide from the historical data, you can see our top line growth and gross profit margin continue improving over the 9 quarters. Our outperforming during the pandemic or COVID-19. So this result from our strategy, increased proportion of value-added product sales, diversifying the import market, and utilizing automation. Our pet care and value-added products such as supplement are the key driver as this have very high gross profit margin. So you can see our gross profit margin was robust. Our gross profit margin improved from the range of 14 to 16% in the past 2 or 3 years to 18 to 19% in 2 years, despite the challenging of increasing inflation and raw material costs. Our gross profit margin remains strong even in this year. So gross profit margin, our target is to reach close to 20% within 2025 by focusing on our portfolio management and shifting to high margin product. So from this slide, you can see our strong growth, especially in our core business. Frozen and chilled seafood business grow 26% when compared to the last 2 years. And in addition, pet care and value-added still strong, also have significantly grown by 54% from the first quarter of 2020 as people are adopting more pets during the COVID-19. For an ambient seafood business, sales still slightly declined from the high base of first quarter of 2020 as people stock up on food supply after first wave of COVID-19 because of the lockdown measure. On the right-hand side, the whole group has been growing 17% from the first quarter of 2020, while our margin has remained at a high level at 17.5%. Moreover, we have seen an improvement in our key raw materials such as tuna and barred wicket in Q2, which will help us directly on a higher margin. This is our new investment. We just invest in new company last month, Mala Corporation, a leading microalgae ingredient producer in Canada, around 270 million baht or 10 million Canadian. Algae oil is the non-GMO version option of DNA-rich omega-3 fatty acid, mostly used for infant nutrition, supplement, food, and beverage. Mara also has a broad portfolio of patent technology for sustainable plant-based nutrition ingredient for human health. So our strategic partnership with Mala is to build this business by creating opportunity to expand from our tuna oil refinery to other kind of oil in like a one-stop shop supplier of algae and tuna-based omega-3 oil in future. So according to our strategy, which I mentioned before that we would like to increase the proportion of value-added product. This slide shows one of our new product under Civita brand, which is under the supplement category, as we just launched last year in Q4. Even though the contribution is small today, but the growth rate opportunity is very high. The supplement market is growing very fast every year. So for the market, we focus more on e-commerce and strategic pharmacy, such as Watson. Moreover, currently we already #1 market share in super and hypermarket chain in Thailand in Q1 already. So this quarter we just launched new SKU 2 product on the right-hand side, which are Civita Collagen Plus Prebiotics. This supporting healthy gut to growing skin. And the second one is fish oil deep sleep. This is supporting brain functionality and deep and sleep performance. For this category, we expect to reach 1 billion baht within 2025. So next, may I invite Khun Ludo?
Thanks a lot, Kunjiji, and welcome again within TU. We are very happy to have you with us today. So here we wanted to give you some quick update on Red Lobster, and you know that already since few quarter, Red Lobster is one of our key challenge in terms of business. We mentioned in Q1 that the key driver for the bad performance of Red Lobster was the Omicron variant. In Q2, unfortunately, we don't expect to have very good news on Red Lobster. The situation still remains very challenging at Red Lobster. I think we are not facing anymore with the Omicron, so this is behind us, which is good. But we are facing a lot of inflation right now in the US, and especially the fuel price is extremely high in the US, and people in the US are extremely sensitive to the fuel price right now. So when they are facing so much inflation, and they have to cut some of their own costs, very often they will cut these discretionary expenses, and they will not go to the restaurants, or if they go to the restaurants, they will go to fast food. So the challenges remain very high at Red Lobster. Just to give you an indication, we do expect to have in Q2 roughly the same share of loss that we did deliver in Q1. So this is higher compared to our expectation. Very likely we will have to increase a bit the share of loss full year expectation that we have. At this stage, we don't have yet the visibility. We did announce minus 650 for the whole year in Q1. I think we have to revise this one up a bit in Q2. We remain very active on this one. So first of all, as I mentioned at the beginning of the year, we did a strong push to increase the number of workers and managers also in the restaurants. It was one of the issues we are facing since last year. Basically, in 2020, we did remove a lot of staff from the restaurants when we did close of all these restaurants. And in 2021, we did restart to increase again the number of workers and managers in the restaurant. A lot of competition, of course. We have to increase the salaries, a lot of inflation. You know how the labor shortage situation is particularly difficult in the US right now. Yet we do have some successes on this one. So the situation in terms of workers is improving, and also managers is improving in our restaurants, which is good. Because in order to make sure we have a good execution, we need to make sure we have enough staff. Yet we are facing, as I mentioned, the inflation, some challenges around inflation. So the guest count is not great. So the losses will be significant again in Q2, and very likely the full year picture will be generating a bit more losses compared to the 650 we had there. There is another one-off I wanted to mention regarding Red Lobster, and nothing to do with the activity, but more with the macroeconomic environment. And I'm sure you know that in Q2, the Fed in the US has been increasing the interest rates quite a lot, 25 basis points in March, April, and then 50, and then 75 basis points. Very unusual. We were not expecting this. So maybe you were wondering, why does this impact Thai Union and Red Lobster? Very simple. If you do remember, our investment in Red Lobster is made up with two components. We have some common shares, and this is why we do record 25% of Red Lobster profit and loss every quarter. And we have also some common shares, some preferred shares. And the preferred share, the way to account for this one is to calculate a fair value. And how to calculate a fair value? You look at all the preferred interest you will collect over the next few years, and then you do calculate the present value with the discount rate. Over the past few years, the discount rate was very close to the interest rate we get from Red Lobster. So every quarter, we do record something like 300 million baht coming from the fair value of these preferred shares. In Q2, it will not be. We expect it will not be the situation. The interest rate have been increasing, so we'll have to increase our discount rate. If the discount rate are increasing, the present value will be decreasing. So very likely we will have one-offs to be recorded in Q2, maybe roughly for the same amount that we did record in Q1, so something in the range of minus 300. So it will impact us. There is no concern on this one. It's just a must because the interest rates are just increasing. We are also expecting the interest rate to be increasing further in Q3 and in Q4. At this stage, we don't expect to have negative impact from this in Q3 and Q4. Hopefully, we will not record anything on this. So for us, it will be quite a substantial impact compared to last year, because of course last year I think we did record something like 1 billion baht total for this other income, and very likely this year we will not be able to record anything on this. So quite a substantial change for us. We have a bit of a tax credit impact, which is offsetting, of course, this impact, but I think that was important to mention to you. You have here a few different initiatives we are doing around Red Lobster. I will not comment. I'm sure we'll get back to this during the Q&A session, but these remain our key challenge in terms of business operation. Next one. So here we move to Germany. We moved to Rügenfisch, and we did announce 1 month ago that we will close one of our factories in Germany. Maybe you remember a few years ago we were having 3 factories in Germany, 1 in the chilled business, 2 in the ambient business. We were facing some challenges in our chilled factory. We did close 2 years ago our chilled factory, and here we are talking about our ambient business. We closed our factory in Lübeck, and we remove and we relocate all the production to our factory in Sassnitz. Okay, so there will not be any change for us in terms of top line, but we want our factory to be more efficient. We were facing since a few years with an issue of overcapacity in Germany. So here we are right now discussing, it was made public in May. Right now we are discussing with the employees. We do believe it will be another one-off also for us in our Q2 numbers, because we have to take an estimate regarding the potential severance costs. Of course, we are proposing all our employees from Lübeck to move to Sassnitz. At this stage, it's too early to say if they will follow or not. Just to give you an idea, the 2 factories are something like 300 kilometers, one from the other. Of course, we're not happy to close 1 factory. We did a bit in the past few years, but I think for us it's mandatory. If we want to remain competitive in the German market, which is highly competitive, we need really to make sure that our manufacturing footprint is fully optimized. Okay, so for you, just to keep in mind, we do expect to have a one-off, again, the range maybe between 200 to 300 million baht before tax in Q2, and there will be a tax impact of roughly 25%. So that will be on top of the preferred shares fair value that I mentioned just before. That will be another one-off we can expect to happen also in Q2. Another one, which is next line, which is our sustainability report, and we just issue this one, and you know that we are extremely active in this one, but sometimes it's a bit difficult to have an overall view on all our activities. So here, very simple, you can take your phone, you just have to scan the QR code, and then you have access straight to our 2021 sustainability report. Very pleased about this one. I think definitely it's worthwhile to have a look. You know that we have been investing a lot in sustainability over the last few years. We have our program called Sea Change. We have our theme also, which is healthy living, healthy oceans. On this one, we know that we have been also very active in the blue refinancing. Last year, we had to refinance a very significant portion of our net debt, and we did all of these with sustainability-linked goals. It has been a great success for us, and for the first time, we can clearly show that we are benefiting or we are saving some money thanks to all the investment we have been doing in terms of sustainability. Maybe we have seen also, we did announce yesterday also our new goal regarding greenhouse gas emission. You can have a look at this one. We just did a press release on this one, and we will talk a bit more about this one in our Q2 communication. Next one, we continue also to be very active in terms of CSR. Okay, you know, of course, the healthy living and the healthy oceans. We know that we have been very lucky over the past 2 years. Overall, we did not suffer so much from the COVID situation. We did a bit in our operation, but compared to some other businesses like tourism, like traveling, like many other businesses, we have been quite lucky on this one. So for us, it's very important that we help our communities. And you can see here on the right, we have been providing some medical kits, some COVID-19 kits in May to try to support really the fishing communities. These people, they work for us, or they are our suppliers, so we really want to support them. You can see that overall the COVID-19 situation seems to be improving. In Thailand, especially, the measures are easing. You can see we don't wear any mask. This is quite new for us. We are very happy about this. You can see also that we need to remain very careful, and I encourage you to remain very careful. We can still see some high numbers of contamination in my continent, in Europe, and also in the US. So the virus is still active, so you need to keep continuing protecting yourself. On the left also, you can see one of the activity we have been doing, and this is something we really encourage our people to do. So what do we do here? We bring our people to try to clean up some places close to our operation. So the first one happened in Thailand, very close to our factory in Samut Sakhon. So here we have something like 100 of our people, combined with other people, collecting all the trash, and you can see 1.8 tons. I didn't have the chance to participate this time, but last quarter I did it. It's a really good experience. You feel really useful because you are cleaning, and you may know that in Thailand, the mangrove especially is very dirty with plastic bottles and blah, blah, blah. So very happy. It's a very small thing. Of course, we remain very humble on this one, but it's very good. We did exactly the same kind of activity in Italy and also in Ghana, where we try to clean the beaches, and I think it's a good thing. And this is very encouraging also to show to our people how do we apply really our theme of healthy living and healthy oceans. Next one, just to be a bit more pragmatic. So here we talk about 22 guidance. The sales for the full year is planned to be between 7 to 8%. You remember this is higher compared to our initial expectation, which was more around 4-5%. Of course, you know, in between the inflation was higher compared to expectation. This is why we revised up our sales. On the opposite situation, our gross profit margin, which was exceeding 18% at the beginning of the year, is now below 18, in range between 75 to 18% for the whole year, with different momentum with our different categories. I'm sure we'll have the opportunities to talk about this in the Q&A session. SG&A are high. You know, the key driver for this one is really our freight cost. This is a challenge since already 5 quarters in a row. The freight costs have been increasing a lot. They are still very high. We can see a bit of decrease, so this is a good sign, but it's still very small compared to the increase that we have been facing with. In terms of operation, the lead time also, exporting from Thailand to the US, it is improving a bit, okay? And also to Europe, it is improving a bit, but it's still very slow. I'm sure you've seen also the profitability that all these transportation companies have been doing in Q1 in 2021. This is very high. I suspect they are taking advantage, because for me, I was expecting really the recovery and the normalization to happen much quicker. Yet this is our situation as of today. We have to increase our prices to absorb this one. It was not enough to absorb all of this, because we have been facing with inflation in the freight cost, in the ingredients, in the packaging, in the utilities also, in the fish also. At the end of Q1, we told you we have some concern with the fish. I'm sure we'll talk in the Q&A regarding the fish price. So still a lot of challenges on the operations. The other 3 KPI, I don't need to elaborate a lot. Interest rates, we don't expect a lot of changes compared to 21. They are increasing, so there will be a bit of increase, of course, on this one, but not really significant at group level for us. The CapEx, we have a very ambitious plan for 2022. You know, we have some very substantial program, 2 in Thailand, 1 in Ghana. We are building some new factories in our culinary, in our protein business also. We are building a new cold store also in Ghana. These are substantial investments. Okay, I think we will be a bit late at the end of Q2. At this stage, we don't want to revise, but I guess we have a bit of buffer on this one. The dividend policy, I don't need to comment further. This is 50%. You know that this is our commitment to our shareholders. And now I will move on to Lina before moving to the Q&A session just after.
Thank you, Ludo. So now I think we can begin with the Q&A session. Oh, okay, sorry. Yes, I forgot something. So here we would like to, before we move to the Q&A session, we would like to promote a special offer from Thammachat Seafood exclusively for Thai Union investors. So for those of you who may not know, Thammachat Seafood is our associate company in Thailand. They're a leading distributor of premium imported seafood products here. So they are partnering with Goji Kitchen and Bar at the Bangkok Marriott Marquis Queen's Park Hotel on Sukhumvit 22. And we are showcasing, the fresh Norwegian fjord trout with special menus made by an award-winning chef there. So we're offering a special discount of 10 to 20% off for the brunch and lunch buffets. So you can simply scan the QR code here for more details and to make a reservation from now until the 31st of July.
I think the first time I did a bit of promotion during some IR activities. No, but just joke apart. I think Tamachat, you know this name. This is an acquisition we've been doing a few years ago. The product are really excellent. I am personally one of their customers. This is really good product, so I really encourage you, if you didn't have the opportunity to try their products, to go there and to try them. These are really good. Okay, and this is in Thailand, and we are very pleased and proud about this business.
Okay, thank you, Ludo. So now please allow us to begin the Q&A session. Please feel free to unmute your microphone, or you may submit your inquiry in the chat box.
Maybe we start with the fish price.
Yes, okay. Yeah, Ludo, can you please tell us a bit about the current fish price situation in the second quarter and maybe the trend for the second half of this year?
Sure. I'm just looking if we have any slide on the fish price this time. So back to first, if we start with the tuna price, okay, the tuna price, if you do remember, at the end of Q1, we told you the fish price was increasing. We were facing an $1,800 for the tons of skipjack, so it was a concern, and we told you at that time we expect the fish price to remain high, and then to be at the minimum at least above 1,500 in the rest of the year. There is one thing is here, the pressure has been declining a bit on the skipjack price. In June, we can see a fish price which is around 1,425, so it is below the 1,500. It's a good surprise for us. Yet we don't expect the fish price to remain at this level. We do expect some further increase to happen in Q3 and Q4, but it seems to be that the inflation is a bit less compared to what we were expecting maybe at the end of Q1. It's a good news for us. Yet the fuel price remained very high, and I'm sure you know this one. You know this is the first source of cost for the fishermen. So the pressure will remain high. You know that in Q3 very often you have some ban. You have some period of time where the people they cannot fish anymore. So we do expect to have some increase to have in this one. However, very happy about this one. There is one thing which is important for you to understand. Here we talk about the skipjack, okay, which is the majority of our tuna production. Yet we have also some substantial exposure to some other tuna species like the yellowfin, like the albacore. We don't see such a decline for the other species. And you know that the fish price, especially the tuna price, it's a combination of catches, where are the catches, in terms of demand, and also in terms of inventories. These are the three key drivers for the fish price, for the tuna price. The catches were good. I think for the skipjack, and this is one of the key drivers for the fish price decrease, the demand is strong, was very strong in Q1, will remain very strong in Q2, I'm sure. We will talk about our ambient business in a bit in the Q&A session. The demand very strong. Something which is difficult to assess is the level of inventories. Of course, it's very difficult to have a global picture. We know, of course, our inventory, but we don't know about the others. We have also many brokers in the industry, so quite kind of difficult to see this one. So in a nutshell, talking about tuna, we have some good news here in Q2, and especially in June. It's a bit lower compared to expectation, but we don't believe such a low price to remain. Okay, so we do believe the price will increase again, but we will be very happy if we can remain in this range of 1,400 to 1,700 that we call our comfort zone, where we say, okay, we can play with this one thanks to our inventories and our level of promotion. So this is for the tuna. Again, on the yellowfin, it's a different story. The price remained very high. Okay, and the yellowfin, for instance, is the species we are using in some countries in Europe, like in France, in my home country. This is the one we are really using. So here the fish price remained very high. Moving to salmon price. Salmon price, we told you in Q1, the salmon price was very high, and it remains very high in Q2. So of course, all our salmon businesses are facing some changes. Tamachat here is one example. Of course, they are using a lot of salmon. You know, Mer Alliance, our cheap product in Europe, they are facing this very high salmon price situation, record high. So here, of course, we try to be very reactive. Mer Alliance has been doing 2-3 price increase already. They will have again to get back to their customers and to try to negotiate a 4th price increase. So difficult situation on this one, and we don't see any real improvement. Of course, you know that we have some hedging partial hedging for this one, so we are not fully exposed. It's possible to hedge the salmon because it's a farm fish, which is a different situation compared to the tuna. So we are not fully exposed yet. The fish price still remain very high. Talking about the shrimp price now, I think we have seen some improvement also happening in Q2. You know that in Q1 the situation was very exceptional. I think the price is around between 150 to 150, 160, but in Q2, so we are really improving. For you to remember, in Q1 the situation was between 170 to even 200. Very unusual situation on this one. So let's see where we'll be. So overall, apart from the salmon, we see a bit of decline in terms of pressure, in terms of inflation in Q2. This is good news. Watch out. I think really it's very difficult to predict. Okay, I think what we can see right now, you can see the inflation is there. Apart from the fish, we are still facing this very high inflation in terms of ingredients, packaging, the utilities also. We didn't talk a lot we started to discuss in Q1 that the utility inflation is something which is really a concern. It is global, okay, in the US, in Asia, and also in Europe. We are facing some huge increase in terms of fuel or in terms of gas price, okay? So here, again, we need to be very reactive on this one. If we have a bit of lower pressure in terms of inflation from the fish, this is a very good news for us.
Okay, we have a question here, two questions actually.
Can you show them? Go ahead.
Will Red Lobster's operation, excluding preferred dividend, improve from the first quarter? Also, how much of the preferred dividend should fall from Q1?
So here, maybe you can get back to the Red Lobster slide. I think in Q2 we do expect to generate roughly the same performance as in Q1. On this one, you can see here in Q1 we did generate a share float which was around 250 million baht losses in Q1. We do expect the same kind of range in Q2. At this stage in Q1, we said the full year picture for a lobster will be minus 650. Very likely we'll have to revise down some further losses. We don't have yet the number. I think we will communicate on this one in our Q2 earnings release, but the operations in Q2 were clearly below our expectation. We told you that we're expecting the situation to improve quarter to quarter. Q1 was not good, Q2 is not good also. The guest count is not improving. Why? The key driver is not the Omicron anymore, but really the inflation. Okay, inflation does prevent the people to get back to restaurants, and Red Lobster is one of the key impact on this one. On the preferred share dividend, maybe can we share the one slide with the quarterly information, or we cannot, the one we shared just before. Maybe we can try to show you one slide just to share with you. You know, every quarter in general we have something like 300 million baht in terms of fair value from the preferred shares. So we have this amount in Q1. Very likely here the guidance for you is we will have a negative amount for roughly the same amount. This is what I do expect. It's not final yet. We are still doing all the calculation, but definitely in Q1, I think the discount rate we are using was very close to the 8% interest rate that we get. Okay. In Q2, we cannot maintain the same discount rate. We have to be realistic. The Fed has been increasing the interest rate a lot by 25 basis points in March, and then by 50 basis points in May, and then by 75 basis points also in June. So definitely we'll have to increase our discount rate in Q2. This is a one-off impact. There is no cash impact behind. However, we have to take this one into consideration. Okay, it's a must for us. Maybe just a view for Q3 and Q4. We do expect to have some further increase in terms of interest rate from the Fed to happen in Q3 and in Q4. So very likely the guidance for the whole year is I don't think we record any significant amount on this line other income. You can see here the line other income on the left. This is what we do communicate every quarter. So we have an amount which is close to 300. Okay. And the fair value is 95% of this amount. We have a bit of management fees, but the key part, let's say 300 is coming from the fair value. Okay, so we did record 300 in Q1 22. You can expect roughly the same amount, but negative amount to happen in Q2. In Q3 and Q4, hopefully we don't record any negative impact, and then it's just 0 and 0. So total for the full year, we expect to have something like a 1 billion baht net impact for us, because you have a bit of a tax credit on this one. So compared to what we did deliver in 21, for instance, we expect to have a net decrease by 1 billion baht. Again, it's substantial, but there is no cash impact, and I think we just need to acknowledge that the Fed has been increasing the interest rate much higher compared to the expectation. I think nobody was expecting the war between Ukraine and Russia to happen, and then the pressure of the inflation to increase that much. And you know that already in Q4, we told you 2022 will be a challenge because of inflation, and this is the case. We knew that the war between Russia and Ukraine did not help. Of course, you can see all the impact on the utility, the fuel price on this one, and you can see the inflation over the past few months in the US has been much higher compared to the expectation, and the Fed, I think, is really determined to fight against this inflation. So they want to get back the inflation to a much more normal rate, and increasing the rate is one of the key actions for them to achieve this one. And they were much more active, and they did increase, I think 75 basis points for them was really kind of a record high in terms of performance. There is one question regarding the case count also in Red Lobster. Very easy. The inflation right now in Q2 is super high in the US, okay? And one thing the people and the customers are very sensitive, especially, is the fuel price. The fuel price in Q2 has been increasing a lot in the US, and I'm sure you have noticed also in Thailand and everywhere in the world it has been growing up. So many people in the US, they are facing some difficulties to face with this inflation. So when you have such a situation, usually you would try to cut or at least to reduce your discretionary expenses. And this is exactly what happened. We can see a shift, the people stopping going to the casual dining and maybe trying to go to more fast food restaurants. And this is why you can see the fast food right now business is so successful right now in the US, while all the other casual industries are facing a bit of more difficulties on this one. We are doing many things. Maybe we get back to the other slide, Red Lobster, sorry. We have a lot of initiative on this one, okay? So we did rethink completely our menu. Here we try to remove some of the expensive items that we have in our menu. We try to bring in something which is more affordable, okay? And we do also a review very carefully on all our products, and we try to focus on all the products where we are making the most of money, okay? You can see here the 4 different initiatives. I mentioned earlier during the presentation that the situation was improving on the number of workers and staff and managers. So this is good. We are still facing some shortage. Okay, everything is not fixed on this one, but overall the situation is improving from this stage. Also, we try to put the focus really on the value proposition, and you can see here on the top right, you can see the 3 courses for $19. But you can see already some effect of the inflation because we have another proposal which was happening at the end of Q4 and Q1 where we had 3 meals for $17. So now we have 3 courses for 19. Of course, the courses are different; they're not the same one, but you can see already the average paycheck is increasing a bit on this one. So we have a lot of initiative to increase the guest count, but it's a fact. Right now, Red Lobster remain our key challenge from a business in terms of operation. We follow very carefully the cash situation, many actions regarding the cost reduction. We really try also, we have been increasing our prices. If you remember, we told you at the beginning of Q1 that we try to not increase that much our prices because we wanted to attract more guest counts. So compared to all the others, we have been increasing our prices to a much lower basis compared to the others. Okay. In Q2 we start changing this. Okay. And in June we did some price increase on this one. We have to. It's a must. Why? Because our raw materials, lobster, snow crab, shrimp, the prices went up. Even if right now we can see the kind of normalization, overall all the prices went up on this one. So this is the situation here. There is one question regarding the off-premise business. We keep pushing on this one. And again, I think this is one of the very good success of the past 2 years at Red Lobster. You know, if you remember before COVID-19, I think they were a bit behind in terms of off-premise business and in terms of digitalization. Now you can have a fully digital experience within Red Lobster. You can order everything. You can even pay also digital. Of course, for us in Thailand, it's not a new topic, but I think they were a bit behind for them. And I think it's a good success. We want to continue to push also on that one. Just one thing, sorry, I didn't mention on Red Lobster. We are also restarting all the marketing activities. Okay, and if you remember in the history of Red Lobster is very well known in the US for some very specific events. Okay, like Lobster Fest, like Snow Crab Fest, or the shrimp also activities. Okay, and of course in 2020 and 21 we did stop, or we did reduce our marketing activities. We did really start again in Q2, so we don't see yet the impact, but hopefully in Q3 we really see the first impact coming from this one, and we can see an increase of our guest count. As long as the inflation will remain very strong in the US, I think we will be facing some challenges. So you can see here the Fed has taken some very radical action on the interest rate. Of course, we are penalized by this one because on our preferred share fair value, it's a negative impact, but yet I do believe we need to bring back the inflation to something which is a better situation. There is one question which is Q3 22, will it remain at loss? Yes, I think very likely we should expect some losses from the Lobster every quarter, just to be very reasonable. I told you that the guidance we gave you at the end of Q1 was minus 650. We do expect some further losses also. So we will update our target for in our Q2 communication.
Okay, there's one person having their hand up. Kun Chati, please feel free to unmute your microphone.
Hi, hi Ludo, Charlie from Ginakin Patra. I just want to clarify, you mentioned the fair value adjustment impact of Red Lobster. I didn't quite catch what you said. So that is going to be a loss that will be recognized in the second quarter. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is our expectation. I'm a bit careful here because everything is not finalized, but you know, the preferred share, the way we accrue for this one is every quarter we calculate the fair value. Okay, because this is what we have to do under TFRS. Preferred shares are considered to be some financial instrument. And the way to do fair value is basically you look at the interest you will collect over the next years, okay, until 2026, which is the maturity of these preferred shares, and then you discount them. You calculate the present value for this one. So as long as you have a discount rate which is very close to your interest rate, basically it's very stable, and this is what we have been enjoying over the past few years. Something around 250 to 300 million baht every quarter, something like 1 billion or 1.2 billion baht. This is in our line other income. Okay. Here in Q2 the story is different. The interest rate and the discount rate is increasing a lot, from something like 8.4 to 10 plus percent. So it's a substantial change on this one. When you do increase the discount rate,
sorry, Ludo, just quickly, your voice is a bit distorted. It's a lot of background noise. It's hard to
Can you hear me well?
Can you hear me well
now?
Yeah, let's try that.
Okay, on our side seems to be correct because we have some people
better.
checking. It seems to be fine. Huh? Did you hear what I said before? Shall I repeat?
Maybe repeat briefly. Yeah.
Sure. So just to be quick, the preferred shares in TFRS, this is considered to be some financial instruments. So the way to accrue for this one is every quarter we have to calculate a fair value. It's not a new topic, and we are doing this since 2019. Every quarter we are calculating the fair value of these preferred shares, and the way to do it is to look at the cash flow you will collect over the next few years, and then you take a discount rate and you calculate the present value of this cash flow. So we have been doing this over the past few years, but over the past few years the interest rate and the discount rate were very stable. Okay, and this is why if you look at quarterly performance every quarter, we were able to recognize something around 300 million baht in terms of preferred share interest. Okay, different situation here in Q2. In Q2, the interest rate go up, and usually they just move by 10 or 20 basis points. Here, very different situation. It increased by at minimum by 1.5%. Okay, so the impact of this one is, of course, your discount rate is increasing, your present value is decreasing, and this is why I think in Q2 we'll have to record a negative amount. So instead of a positive 300, it will be a negative amount. It's a one-off impact. I guess the range is not finalized, but will be roughly around 302 on this one. There is no cash impact behind, but the bad news. But I think we just need to acknowledge that the interest rate situation is changing right now, and it is increasing. it is increasing, and so we need to update our discount rates. We do expect to have some further increase from the Fed in Q3 and in Q4. This is why overall for the full year, the guidance is, I don't think we will have a significant impact coming from the preferred shared interest. Okay, so we are expecting, we had plus 300 in Q1. We do expect something in the range of minus 300 in Q2, and then maybe 0 in Q3 and maybe 0 in Q4 until we get to a certain amount of discount rate, and we don't expect a lot of further increase to happen in 2023. Is it clear?
Okay, so that means the share of income, the equity income would be negative by around additional 300 million for the remaining quarters of the year, or just for the second quarter?
Let me show you our quarterly view. Get back to what you were presenting just before. So remember, we have few lines for Red Lobster. Okay, you will see here the first line that we have the share profit from operation. This is 25% of Red Lobster. Okay, we have this one, and this is coming from our common shares. Okay, and this one I told you in Q2 the guidance is roughly, I do expect to have roughly the same share of loss compared to Q1. The second line, this is a lease. It's roughly 100 million baht. This is very stable. There is no change on this one. You can expect to have roughly the same number. The only driver here may be the FX. So you may have a small increase from this one. What I'm talking about now is the preferred share interest, which is recorded in the line other income. Okay, and you can see over the past few quarters, usually we always record something like plus 300. Okay, what I'm telling you now is in Q2, I do expect to have a negative amount by almost 300 or so in Q2. Okay, and in Q3 and in Q4, right now, our forecast is it will be 0. Okay, 0 in Q3, 0 in Q4. So there will be a negative one-off happening in Q2, very likely. Of course, we need to check all of this. This is right now we are the 1st of July, so we don't have the full visibility. But this is a most likely scenario. Okay, so share profit should be quite aligned with Q1, and the other income it will be a negative amount by roughly 300, maybe a bit more.
So in Q3 and Q4, instead of recognizing around 300 million in other income from this interest payment, you'll be recognizing 0. Is that
correct? Correct, because we do expect some further increase from the Fed. So we do expect we'll have to increase further our discount rate in Q3 and in Q4. However, it will be much more limited compared to what we have. What we have right now is, you have seen the Fed announcement in Q2. I think everyone was very surprised on this one. So this is our direction. Negative amount by 300 in Q2, and then Q3 and Q4, an amount of 0, roughly. Huh? There may be some small positive.
That means the full year impact would be around 1.2 billion for the whole year.
It will be 0. If we have a plus 300 for the other income, huh? You're talking about the other income. If we say it's a positive 300 in Q1, Q2, it's a minus 300, 0 in Q3, 0 in Q4, meaning the whole year will be at 0. It was 1.2 last year in 2021, okay, where we were recording 300 every quarter. Just talking about this line, other income. Clear?
Okay, so this year, instead of 1.2 billion, it will be 0 for this other income line.
Right now, this is the expectation, given the changes in this contract.
We have a question. Thank you, Kun Chati. We have a question on Red Lobster as well on the tax credit. Can you talk a bit about that due to the negative other income?
Sure. I think it's a good question. I didn't mention this one. Yes, there will be one thing partially offsetting this one. So in Q2, we record this minus 300 from the fair value of the preferred shares. We do expect to record a 25% tax rate. But it will be combined. We have a US tax consolidation where we are combining the results coming from our frozen, from our ambient, from our pet care, and Red Lobster. Okay, so it's a combination of all of this. And yes, usually we have some tax credit coming from this situation. So we do expect the same to happen in Q2. Absolutely.
Okay, a question from an analyst. So that loss from preferred share fair value will be around 300 million baht in Q2, correct?
Correct. Again, we need to finalize all the calculation. But as I mentioned, the fair value will be around minus 300 in Q2, and then we do expect 0 and then 0 in Q3 and in Q4.
Okay. Given the sales increased in Q1 and margin also improved, should profits in Q2 be stronger than Q1?
I think here maybe we can give a bit of colors by category, because we have different mechanisms by category. I think the first one is the ambient business. We do expect the ambient business to remain very strong. Also in Q2, not as strong in terms of growth compared to Q1, but we do expect to have a single-digit growth in terms of top line, and the gross profit margin to be very close to the one from Q1. Our frozen business, I think, will be declining in Q2. This is the expectation, and the gross profit margin will be a bit under pressure. We told you that in the US, the market was normalizing. We told you one of the key drivers for our fantastic year in 2021 was a unique price situation in the US, and we told you at the beginning of the year that we were expecting this market to normalize. What does it mean? It means that on some specific products that we are selling in the US, like snow crab, like lobster, the prices went up like record high last year, but now it's very high. Some restaurants are taking away these products from their menu, and the market are normalizing, meaning there is no more demand, and the prices are going down. So it's good for us in the long term, but of course for us, for the short term in terms of margin, it's not good, because it means that you need to sell some of our products, which are still expensive, and this is why the margins are declining. In our frozen business, we have also the Thai frozen part, which is very successful in Q1, was very successful, and we do expect the same momentum to remain in Q2. We have also our chilled business, which is very exposed to salmon, which is under pressure. So overall, we do expect our frozen business to decline and our gross profit margin to decline a bit in Q2. In our pet care and value-added business, we do expect positive momentum to continue, very strong top line in Q1. We do expect it will continue in Q2, sorry, and also the packaging also is doing well. So overall, for Q2, in terms of top line, we do expect to have a strong top line, mostly driven by our pet care value-added category and also the ambience, where we do expect some growth both in volume and also in price, while we do expect to have our frozen category kind of normalizing in Q2. There is one question regarding the OP. Keep in mind also, where do we compare to? Q2 21 was for us the best quarter ever. Okay, I think the OP was something like 2.3 billion baht, so very high. We don't expect to deliver the same performance very clearly. Why? Because in terms of top line, we will grow. Gross profit margin, I think we can expect to remain in the same range that what we did in Q1, so declining a bit versus Q2 21. And keep in mind also that our SG&A are still growing. Okay, we are still facing with this inflation issue. In terms of freight costs, it is improving a bit, but it's very small overall on this one. So the SG&A are still high. Plus, I'm sure you have seen this one that we did announce a few weeks ago, also the closure of one of our factories in Germany. So here we talk about business we can fish. A few years ago, we had something like 3 factories in Germany, one in the chilled business, 2 in the ambient business. We closed the one in the chilled business 2 years ago. And here we did announce that we closed one of the ambient business also. What we are doing, in fact, we are consolidating 2 factories into one. So there will be a one-off, very likely to be recorded in Q2. From this one, we do expect the range of the one-off to be between -200 to -300 million baht. Right now, we don't have the whole visibility on this one. We have something like 200 employees in this factory. The proposal, of course, is for them to move and to go to the other factory, which is in Sassnitz, in a different location. I think it's something like 300 kilometers one from the other. But that will be one of the negative one-off we'll have to face also in Q2. Of course, we're not happy when we have to close some factory, and we have really been trained over the last few years to recover the business and to push for the volume and blah, blah, blah. But the situation in Germany, it's a very competitive market, very price sensitive on this one. Even if you are doing very good quality, the consumers, Aldi and Lidl, they are very strong here. So the focus is mostly on the prices. So if your manufacturing footprint is not well optimized, then you have some challenges in the long term. So we believe it's a mandatory, of course, the hit for us. It will be a negative impact in our Q2 numbers. Yet we believe it's going the right direction, and it's also the right decision to be taken. Okay, it will be a one-off in Q2. We don't close straight the factory. Okay, the closure is planned for next year only. We need a bit of time to optimize and to make everything ready. Yet it was announced to the employees, so there will be an accrual to be recorded in Q2. Again, the range will be between 200 and 300. So this one, of course, will impact negatively our profitability in Q2.
Maybe just a follow-up question earlier is so you mentioned strong solid sales growth and margin improvement. Can the positives offset the negatives of Red Lobster and the Rügen Fish restructuring expense?
I think here, if you summarize the one-off I mentioned about, so if we talk about the SG&A, which is in range between 200 and 300, if we talk about the fair value impact also, no, I think it will be difficult to replicate the same performance than last year, just to make it very clear. I think we made it very clear also last year when we did release our Q2 numbers, that it would be very difficult to replicate the same performance, okay? So we do expect to decline versus Q2 last year. Again, it was record high in terms of performance. So it's not a surprise. Sales will be growing, GP will be growing, OP will be declining, I guess, versus Q2 last year. While the SG&A pressure is still here, the inflation is still there. I do expect that if you do remove these one-off, the OP margin will be improving a bit compared to Q1 22. Yet, I think if you compare to last year, I think in Q2 21 we were around 7% OP margin. I think we will be below compared to this one. And in terms of bottom line, you will see, I do expect to have some positive news on the FX. I'm sure you have seen that the Thai baht has been declining in Q2. This will help us to partially offset the impact coming from the fair value of Red Lobster and also the additional losses coming from Red Lobster. And I think we'll have some good news also on the level of taxes. Okay, the level of taxes, of course, is dependent on the performance of Red Lobster. Red Lobster is generating more losses, so there will be more tax credit coming from the US.
What is the gross profit margin and sales guidance in the second quarter?
So first of all, if we talk about the top line first, I think overall at group level, we will be in the range of our yearly guidance. So you know that our yearly guidance is between 7 to 8%. So we do expect to have this kind of very strong growth to happen in Q2. It is lower compared to Q1. Of course, remember Q1, it was double-digit growth. So we don't expect to replicate the same performance, but still, I think we'll be fully in our full year target, which is the good news. And again, with different performance depending on which categories you are talking about. Pet care value added will be again the most dynamic category. The ambient, we expect also to have some growth on this one, while for the frozen category, we do expect to have some decline in normalization. Again, please refer to Q2 21. The frozen performance was really exceptional at that time. So this is for the top line. And of course, including this one, we have some FX positive impact. In terms of gross profit margin, I think we'll be very close to what we delivered in Q1. And here the idea also is to be within our range of full year guidance. Maybe you can show the full year guidance. I think we'll be in the low range. I think we did achieve 17.5 in Q1 21, 17.5 in Q1, yes, and I think we'll be very close to this amount also in Q2. The SG&A percentage will be higher compared to this one. Why? Because we'll have this one-off regarding the factory closure. If you do exclude this one-off, I think we will be also in the high range of this target for the whole year. And then in Q3 and in Q4, we do expect the sales to remain very strong again, to deliver some growth every quarter. And we do expect to see some gross profit improvement in Q3 and in Q4. And also we do expect to see some freight situation improvement in Q3 and in Q4. So we do expect to have an improving profitability in Q3 and in Q4. And this is why I think that our full year guidance will not change a lot in our Q2 communication.
Okay, so taking all into account, should Q2 be stronger than Q1?
No, I think you heard what I mentioned. Here you heard what I mentioned regarding the one-off. We didn't have that much one-off in Q1. Here we have two large ones. We have the one on the fair value by 300. As I mentioned, there is a one also on the SG&A. Taking this one into consideration, if we can be around the same level of Q1 as of net income, that would be a good news, but that would be difficult. There is one thing we don't fully control, which is the FX. We do expect to have some substantial FX gain to happen in Q2 thanks to the Thai baht weakening.
Okay, we have just under 2 minutes left. If anyone would like to raise any further questions, please feel free to do so now.
Receive 300 preferred share dividend.
Hi, Rudo. This is Planjai from Capital Nomura Security. I would like to ask about the other income from preferred shares. Will it return back to 300 in next year?
I think it depends on the interest rate. Yes, normally once you get back to a normal discount rate and you don't see this high of huge increase, normally the fair value is supposed to be kind of stable. And if you see over the past few years, it was very stable from one quarter to another stable. I think what we need here, we need to rebase the discount rates, not only us, but I think everyone. So everyone will be hurt by this impact. So here, 2022, for me, it's really a rebase. We're getting our discount rate. And then once we are back to normal, and I think also we don't expect to have a lot of further increase to happen in 23. I think right now the Fed is very pushy because they want to fight with this inflation, but of course the risk is they are too strong. And if you push too much for the interest rate, then you have a risk of recession. I think they are talking exactly about this risk in the US right now. So I don't expect to have such a negative impact to happen again in the year 23. I think the year 22 will be really a rebaseline.
Okay. So since we have reached the hour, we would like to thank all of those participants for joining today, and thank you Ludo and Kunjiji for being the key speakers for today. We look forward to seeing you in our earnings call and analyst meeting next month. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Stay safe and talk to you for the earnings release. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.